Impression the game you get out with what you put into it. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea. He deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. There's a chance to score. He's put it high.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
Yeah, sympathies and scarcity for Limerick this week, I'm afraid, you know.
How are you, Matt? We're very welcome, folks, to the 335th episode of Treaty Talk. Tom Clancy, of course, and Matt O'Callaghan to discuss a very, very busy weekend of Gaelic games for Limerick teams last weekend. Matt, we were saying there that when the clock ticked around 50 minutes in Croke Park last Sunday, it looked like it could have been an absolute disastrous weekend. The hurlers had bowed out. The camogie team were all but out. The ladies footballers had not met their match or had not had done their job. And then the footballers, from the depths of despair, dug it out. And thankfully, we're smiling here on Wednesday afternoon, at Talton Cup final around the corner.
Yeah, Tom, it was really, really digging it out. If you were to characterize a weekend from hell, sporting wise, it was it, or almost it, but thanks be to God that the footballers came up to the mark and rescued what would be a very, very, very very difficult week for us here in Limerick. And certainly this would be a very downbeat podcast were it not for the heroics of the football team. But Tom, and we'll be discussing it in a few minutes now with our two guests who are from the football team. This in many ways, Tom, excuse me, it has been typical of the resilience that this team has been shown, and they've gone places where Limerick teams haven't gone before. And in a clean sweep in the Talton Cup, which very significantly, Tom, included a win over Westmeath, who were really Limerick's bogey team. And of course, who would ever have dreamt at the start of this year that Limerick senior footballers would be making 3 appearances in Croke Park, 2 in finals? It would be beyond our wildest dreams. But Tom, as we sit here this evening and as we're about to talk to the two lads, it is a reality. And what a lovely reality it is to be looking forward to in next Sunday 2 weeks, or Saturday 2 weeks, going back to Croke Park for the Talton Cup final.
Yeah.
And all this narrative about Kildare are hot favourites, and they're hot favourites from the start, and all this sort of thing. Bunkum.
Anyway, we'll come to that. We won't worry about Kildare today anyway.
No, but Limerick wouldn't be able to beat. They wouldn't beat Wexford when they get to Croke Park in the league final. They wouldn't be able to beat Westmeath. Rubbish.
Yeah, and 2 from 2 in Croke Park, not a bad record to be sitting on anyway for so far this year. But anyway, Matt, enough from us. Time to bring in our two guests, as you mentioned, 2 members of the football panel, Peter Nash of Kildare Palace Skennery, and Ula's Josh Ryan, men operating at opposite ends of the field, but 2 men who impacted the scoreboard of the weekend. Lads, first of all, congratulations on reaching the Talton Cup decider. 1896 was the last time Limerick senior footballers contested an All-Ireland final. It sounds funny when you say it, but fair play to you, lads. Josh, I'll start with you. You must be thrilled, so naturally enough, to have got over the line, but it wasn't looking too good there with once Wicklow went 7 points up. And in fairness, as Matt says there, the character and the endeavour shown by the side, it got your reward in the end.
Yeah, to be fair, look, as the man says, look, we're delighted to get over the line, and to be fair, semi-finals are there to be won, and look, as I said, yeah, we got over the line and we're delighted with that. But look, we've 3 weeks to prepare for a final. If you'd have told us that on the 15-minute mark we'd be in a final, we wouldn't have believed you. After kind of our display for the first 50 minutes, 7 points down with 20 minutes to go. We were under a bit of pressure, all right. But look, thankfully we got a small bit of rub of the green and got the goal from Bob Childs, and then we pushed on with the impact from the bench. So we're delighted to be in a final there in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, Peter, Josh touched on it there, the impact from the bench. I mean, Ian Corbett, I think, was ill coming into the game. James Naughton got a knock when he was having a shot, in the opening few minutes. Emmett Richter's hamstring went on him. What seemed to be, three of the leading lights in this team for so much of the season had to cry off earlier than maybe you would have liked. But then you see the power of the bench, because, you can always say we have a strong bench, but to actually see them showing it, I think Barry Coleman, kind of coming in a bit cold a little bit. He really showed what this team or what he is to this team, and there was more besides young Dara Murray as well. Like the bench really gave you fresh legs, fresh impetus, fresh energy that was needed down the stretch.
Yeah, definitely. Like across the course of the year, that's been happening on a consistent basis. Like there was a period there where I was part of the bomb squad as such, and I think the whole kind of ethos across the panel is you're trying your best to add value in any way, shape or form you can. And it gives you a real boost when that energy, that legs and that kind of, that real intent is coming off the line. And it, particularly as well, just to mention Barry, it was really, really nice for the panel to have Barry back and available again. He is one of our vice captains. He's a leader on the panel. So it was really, really good for him personally to make the impact that he made, have the performance that he had, and for us to get him back in as part of the group.
Josh, congratulations on your man of the match performance and on scooping the man of the match. You had 2 vital interventions during the game. You saved a penalty and you kicked the 2-pointer at the end, which sealed the deal. Talk us through both of them.
I suppose in the build up to the penalty, although Tony Mack was questioning whether it was a penalty or not, on review of it probably was a penalty, but Tony Mack will disagree with me anyway on that. But no, look, Pat Ranahan had said it during the week, on Tuesday night before at the start of the week when we were training, that Washington McGrain taking the penalty, and he kicked it to what would have been my left hand side and kicking it across his body, but he went there again and thankfully got a touch on it and got a nick off the post to save the ball. So look, I suppose all you can do is take a chance in the penalty really as a goalkeeper, because the chances of saving it are fairly slim, So no, look, delighted to get a save, and Peter was there to be on the receiving end of a hand pass after the penalty, and we started another attack, and then just with the free, it's just a thing where you're imagining you're back home in your backyard when you're 6 and 7 years of age, just kicking the ball over the bar. That's what you try and, I suppose, emulate, when you're in a kind of a high pressure environment. But look, at the end of the day, if you stick to your routine, you've every chance of kicking it over the bar.
Peter, the resilience that this team has shown and the comeback, I put to you as a byproduct of the great sense of camaraderie that's in this particular squad.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Matt. There is a real sense of camaraderie, and even though it's a new group as such, it's a real hybrid between the kind of groups that have gone by in the last couple of years and a new incoming breed and new blood of footballer in Limerick. There's a real openness to everyone being there, and there's a real openness to everyone that's involved, and that has kind of coupled that with the faith in the plan in any given day and building experience of getting results and digging through tough times and matches across the course of the year. It just kind of solidifies and strengthens that resilience. But that resilience is definitely there. You're looking around the pitch at lads when things get tough, and you can see lads kind of gritting their teeth and wanting to go again and wanting to finish out a game regardless of what a potential outcome might be. It just happens that we've we've turned around a few of them. We've been 4 and 5 points down in different games. We've been 5 and 6 points up and let that lead rescind and dug it out in the last kind of minute, like the Westmeath game. And yeah, you're just kind of learning new ways every week to win the game. But the big thing is kind of sticking to the plan and trusting the lads around you, because I know personally I have a huge amount of trust in all of those lads.
Peter, the Jimmy spoke to us before about the principles of play that that he wants the team to play at, and obviously maybe another byword for tactics or formation or whatever it is. But I suppose you need moments as well to reiterate that what you're doing is correct. And I suppose that the games that have been referenced time and again post-match to likes of ourselves and have been referenced by other people are some of the league games, like going over to London when I suppose you were still on that winless league run, to go over and get that win. The draw in Wicklow is referenced as well, because obviously the draw de facto was a victory in that instance. And I suppose you know yourself from playing for so long in sport, you need these moments. You need something to reiterate that the principles of play, as Jimmy calls them, and whatever the coaches are saying to you whatever it is working. And since the Celtic Cup has started, I don't think you've really looked back. Really, I know it's 5 wins in a row. It's easy to say that, but it does take those tight victories, in the springtime to kind of reiterate that this is a good panel, this is a good team, and we're doing things right.
Definitely, like everything is intertwined there. Everything is kind of in a fine balance, and like getting a result or pulling through a kind of a tough spot in a game solidifies more your belief in different things. But like our whole different points across the whole season up to this point, like our whole season is hinged on, like you said, moments there. Even after the first 2 rounds, after a draw at Longford, losing a 2-point lead to a last minute or a last second 2-point score, and then going on to be outclassed by Wexford in the second round of the league. And I made reference to it in a couple of things that I still felt that we were 1 win away from catching fire, just with how committed the group were, the energy in training, the intensity in training, and also the quality of coaching we have been getting. So once we got to London and got a result, it kind of did kick on from there. And then there's big moments from big players, like Josh produced a huge one there at the weekend. 2 of them in the same game, 2 memorable ones, stuff that would live long in the memory of a lot of Limerick football supporters for years to come. But there have been other players producing moments in every game, and somebody else is standing up every day. And again, when you look around the pitch and things are teetering in the balance, and you see the quality that's around, and the moments those players have had across the course of the year, like there's a real sense of confidence in what's possible, as opposed to what might be happening in that given moment in a game.
Yeah. Very good, very good. Josh, just to come back to yourself playing in goals, the new rules, I was in a very advantageous position in Croke Park the other day. I suppose you have to be a bit of a coordinator back there. I saw you, I think for one of Tony McCarthy's points, you might claim a slight assist, because I could hear you roaring at him to join in on the attack. There's times as well where players naturally would look back to you to try and pass it back. I suppose you've obviously refined all these things, and as for yourself and as a team, I don't think you've really breached the new rules that often as time has gone on. I suppose in the league, a couple of mistakes in some games, but you've really sharpened up on those things, and really cut out the mistakes. And even the other day, I suppose you were conscious, the lads up the field were conscious not to foul because of Mark Jackson's ability outside the arc. You really kind of have learned as a group how to deal with these new rules across all these games.
Yeah, look, and every day you go out and you're playing together as a group, or any day we're training, like you're still learning the new rules. You're still learning ways to I suppose make it as advantageous as you can, especially with that, keeping the tree back and the tree up top. Like if fellas aren't really looking around them, so it's important that you're, I suppose, communicating with them, and I suppose leaving them know that they can push on, or they have to stay back, because there's no point in giving someone a free for breaching the halfway line when it's completely unnecessary, and things like that. And then I suppose we spoke about Mark Jackson's then ability to kick frees. Like he is the top 2-point scorer in the country at the moment, from place balls. He's ahead of Rory Beggan, Niall Morgan, who are all unbelievable kickers of football. So I suppose we knew the ability that Mark Jackson has, and the slap of ball that he has as well. So was important that we kept them to a minimum throughout the course of the game. Like, but look, as I said, every day you're going out training and you're playing matches. You're still adapting to the new rules. You're still learning new ways to, I suppose, create attacks and create scores off these new rules.
Do you find it hard, Josh, when the cornerback intercepts a ball, not to scream for a little pass? Your instinct kind of must go against you there, because obviously for so long when you were playing outfield, obviously, and even last year when you were playing in goals, the natural thing was to come off his shoulder or to be available. It's probably something that maybe you get used to quite quick, but it's still counterintuitive that you're kind of. I saw you the other day with your hands like this at one stage, just don't pass to me. How do you find that as well?
I suppose, look, fellas are kind of used to it now at this stage. When we're under a bit of pressure, they know as well as I know that I can't touch the ball, so there's no point in even attempting to kick it to me. To be better off kick it out over the sideline than give it to me for a free, So look, it is quite different to last year. It's a completely different role that you're playing. Because if you want to get on the ball, you have to be ahead of the ball, and being ahead of the ball is in the opposite half. So you have to either go gun ho and get past 14 lads, to get up to the other side of the field, or else you just stay inside in the goals and don't look for the ball, But look, if you're communicating with the lads, it makes it very easy, and they're making my job easy as well, because when fellas are getting to the halfway line, they're kind of, some of them are gassed and some of them are calling you up to get into an attack. But then at times as well, fellas need a break as well, so if you're standing inside in the goals for, you can be standing inside for 15 minutes at a time, and you can make that run up the field, whereas some fellas might need a break, and it's just important that you still have your 4 back and keep your 11 up top in, that you can actually create a score.
Yeah. Matt?
Nash, talk to us about the role of Jimmy Lee and his management team. It appears that the squad have bought in completely to their football philosophy and to their game strategy and their game plans.
Yeah, I suppose there's been so much work that's gone completely unnoticed by so many, but I suppose we know the hard work, the time that they've taken to I suppose, to give us the best opportunity to perform at the highest level, between meetings by themselves, meetings with players, even meeting with the backroom team itself, with Marion there, for the psychology side of it, we've so much stuff available to us now to, I suppose, learn as a group and to grow as a group collectively, so between Evan Talty and Michal Cahill, Pa Ranahan, Dylan Kenny and Conor Walker, and then Jimmy and his man management skills as well, there's so many guys doing stats in the background as well that no one sees, Michal Burns, Paddy Valley, Tomas Costello, there's so many fellas, and I'm probably leaving fellas' names out now, but people don't see what they're doing behind the scenes, and the kind of training that we're doing. The training has been absolutely unbelievable all year, and it's been every night you go out, it's something different. It's never ever the same, and look, all we're doing is doing what they're telling us, or we're trying to feed off of them, because they're the ones on the sideline looking on. They're looking at from a height inside in Croke Park, or they're looking, from a higher view in training and stuff like that. And look, training is recorded every night, and it's reviewed and everything like that. And between good passes of play and bad passes of play, it's outlined to us in video sessions. There's so much work that goes into it. But look, we're only I suppose we're lucky enough to have that kind of ability of coaches within the camp.
Can I just interrupt there, Matt and Josh, for a second? The goal, Bob Childs' goal, while it was obviously an easy finish in the end, I was asking Jimmy about it after the match Sunday, and he kind of, could be wrong now with this, but he kind of referenced, maybe this is the attention to detail that the backroom team are paying, that Mark Jackson, a good goalkeeper that he is, he's a good distributor of the ball, that maybe isn't the best carrier of the ball. Was that referenced, I wonder, to the forwards, that maybe, as I think, Peter, you called it a strip tackle there? I don't know, is that reference, lads, to be a possibility, and maybe Bob seized upon that? And is this the level of detail that you're getting even on opposition, that players are using their left foot or they turn this way? Obviously, you mentioned the penalty, Josh, that Oisin Morganer had scored against in the quarterfinal. So is this the level of detail now that inter-county players are expecting and indeed are getting from the backroom team? I'll put that to you, Josh.
I suppose, as any goalkeeper in the country, if a ball is just found in there and it doesn't, it doesn't come off the boot as cleanly as you like, anything can happen with the ball. It can easily slip out of your hands. It happened to me in Wicklow above there in Aughrim this year. The ball was kicked in, and was coming out with the ball and it was intercepted, you know, with a hand pass, like. But it's very easy to make a mistake inside in the goals, like. And I suppose if you're making mistakes out the field, it's something that's not as it's not as noticed as it is if you're inside in the goals, like, you know, because goalkeeper makes a mistake, it's in the back of the net, like. And that's what happened at the weekend. I suppose Bob got a good tackle in on Mark Jackson and ended up in the back of the net, like, you know, which was unfortunate for Mark Jackson. But look, we were delighted that happened, like, you know. You should take every chance that you get.
Yeah, Matt.
Peter, like 2023 and 2024 in the league was a pretty tough time now to be a Limerick footballer. We just couldn't buy a win. But there was a happy release on both years in the Tailteann Cup. It gave us encouragement. It gave us hope. Limerick seemed from day one to have adapted very well to the Tailteann Cup competition.
I think so, yeah, Matt. And I think there's a real enjoyment of it. Like, there's, for some of the older lads in the panel, there's a real novelty in years gone by. There would have been maybe one Munster Championship game and one qualifier game. But, you know, knowing that you're heading into a summer football with 3 guaranteed games in the championship and the possibility of a 4th/5th, depending on preliminary quarterfinals or quarterfinals, it gives you something to target. It gives you something to work towards. And also probably the case that 3 go through out of a group means that, like, no matter what happens, it's coming down to the last day. So you're looking to incrementally improve across the course of that. Now, I know we're saying that 23 and 24 are very difficult from a league standpoint, but me being kind of positive around it, there were probably a lot of green shoots there at different stages as well. Like, we were close and competitive in spells of games with some of the biggest and best teams in the country, and that experience in Division 2, like, I remember playing in Division 2 and against those teams, and with that quality of level of football for the rest of my days. And the hope is to potentially get back there at some stage, you know, or to have a Limerick football group get back there at some stage, because ultimately you just want to keep climbing and keep getting better and testing yourself and see how good you can get. But to round off and answer your question, like, the Tailteann Cup over the last couple of years has been a real energy builder, a real kind of energy funnel. Even you're funneling energy into it, and it's carrying into off season, and it's carrying into pre-season from an extra game standpoint, longer season standpoint, and like a positivity and belief standpoint. You know, that, like, we got a couple of great results last year. We got one particularly against Offaly, and we know how good Offaly are and the good season that Offaly have had earlier in the season, winning Division 3 and stuff. So there's kind of little footprints there of, like, real positivity through 23 and 24 as well. And the Tailteann Cup was definitely the biggest footprint of positivity there.
Tom?
Oh, keep going, yeah. So, lads, obviously you're marching on the 12th, to put it that way. The 12th of July is the final with Kildare, and look, there's a lot of people have spoken about this Kildare team from a long way out as potential winners, but I suppose the event that it is, and the milestone that it is for you in your careers, and indeed for Limerick football, it is massive. And Josh, it's great that the county board, I think, have announced that tomorrow evening, I think it's the kind of an open training session for youngsters around the county. We've seen in the last few years what, I suppose, the success of hurling does. I suppose you're looking now as players to, I know you have a job to do and focus on the next couple of weeks, but you're obviously looking as football men, looking to capitalise on that as well, and, you know, to show people, youngsters around the county, that there is a pathway there to play for Limerick, and there is I suppose, targets that can be achieved, such as getting to a Tailteann Cup final. So it's a big milestone for you as a group, and for football in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, to be fair, it's going to be the biggest day that a lot of us will have played in. Like, to be fair, you know, like, the reality is we're going to be playing in Croke Park, but, you know, there is an All-Ireland semi-final after. And look, hopefully there is a bandwagon of Limerick supporters that travel on the day, like, you know. So look, we're going to go up there, we're going to play the game to the best of our ability, I suppose. And look, if we perform to our performance indicators, we'll be there every step of the way. With Kildare, look, they're a good team and everything like that. But look, we'll be focusing on ourselves and our performance indicators, and look, hopefully we can get over the line, you know.
Yeah, Peter, the last day we referenced the 50-minute mark. To me, looking out, obviously Josh referenced KPIs there. I don't know were you meeting them or not, but it seemed maybe that you were a little bit off, perhaps in some areas where you'd like to have been. So it's probably good coming into a final that there is scope for improvement. As good and all as he did play for a finish, there's plenty of scope as well for improvement. That certainly wasn't maybe a peak performance the last day.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. There's definitely room for improvement there, and that's what the next 3 weeks is about, or the build up to the game. It's about chasing those improvements so that we can be the best version of ourselves as a group going into that game. Do you know? And then, to be honest with you, you see where the cards fall, see where things lie when the final whistle's blown. But it is definitely a good place to be. But it's kind of with the coaching team, it's kind of a place where they have kept us for most of the year. They've kind of always been, for want of a better word, dangling a carrot all the time for giving you something to chase as a group, or giving you something to chase as an individual, to just keep you improving, keep you focused, keep you hungry, keep you moving forward. So I think it's become a trait of the group, that they're probably self-analysing before they're looking anyplace else. And the next 3 weeks, like I said, will be about us doing that individually and collectively, and to try and bring the best version of ourselves, so that regardless of what happens, people can be proud of what we do and what we produce and how we play our football, because we want to play a good brand of football as well.
Yeah, just before they're going to finish up, myself and Matt might have one or two more for you lads, but Peter, I think you scored 2 frees the weekend. There was not much said about him, but what about your man here on the other side of the screen scoring from, I think, 63 metres was one of them was clocked at anyway. It's phenomenal kicking anyway, isn't it? I know he'll be blushing there a bit, but it's some weapon to have, You and I were fond of the 12, 20 and 30 metre frees down the years, but Josh,
yeah,
60 odd.
The frees I kicked at the weekend were a very, very different calibre of free to the free that Josh kicked, and he matched what I did with 2 close-in ones with just one swipe of a ball from 60 odd metres. But I don't want to make him blush here now, but you to be honest with you get used to Josh doing things like that. You just get used to looking at Josh at times and going,
we can't see you blushing, Josh.
You look at him at times and you go, how does that happen?
But joking aside, it's actually a very important. We've seen it now because it's worth 2 points, as you referenced there. It's a very important asset to be able to kick those, maybe not from quite that far out, but anywhere just outside that arc. You see the transformation it can make to teams. Even Dan Healy kicking one before half time was big for Wicklow from play, like a 2-pointer from play. They can change games, and he went from, in the space of a few minutes, he went from 7 to 4 to 2 points down by getting a goal and a 2-pointer. He only scored twice, so they're very big scores when they happen, and always helpful then when opposition know that they can't foul you from probably 50 odd meters out now. So it's a big plus, isn't it, Peter?
It probably alters defenders' decisions and different things, and it might buy some players in different positions kind of a half second on the ball to be able to execute. And the other side of it then as well is if those frees are given, we know that having Josh coming up, there's a real air of confidence that Josh looks after the free and we look after the setup from that point. So it's a real good string to have to the bow, and Josh will hopefully keep kicking him. There'll be no fear of Josh that way, I'd say. Yeah.
Josh, do you normally practice him from that far out, or did it just click into place nicely on the in GAHQ in Croke Park?
I suppose sometimes you'd be out of training a small bit earlier than most, and you'd kind of, once you get the range in it all from the 40 metres, you kind of start creeping back a small bit further and further and further, and then some fellas are coming out and you're saying, geez, I'm going to go back further here now again, but no, look, it's all about routine at the end of the day, and if you're kicking on well from that arc, or just getting the eye in, the ball will fly, just once you stick to your routine, and I suppose once you kick the ball cleanly, a lot of the time they'll kind of head that general direction, and you'll be hoping that they'll go over the bar.
You're not trying to get rid of the 2-point free like some people in the national media area. You're happy enough to keep it in there, Josh. That's area.
No, I think they should be 3-point frees now instead of
Of course.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, if they're outside the 65, I think it should be 3. So we might test that in the future. But I know, in fairness, I was very, very much, in awe, especially the second one. The first one was quite good, but like it is a great skill of the game. And I know Matt is of an era where they used to only be allowed to kick him off the ground. I always think lads taking them from their hands outside the 45 are kind of cheating a bit, like, but taking them off the ground, it's some kick, in fairness. So that, Matt, I'll let you come back in there.
Yeah, Josh, my final question, for the most part, while I remember, Limerick football and Limerick footballers have been in the shadows of the hurlers. That all changed on Sunday evening because of circumstances on Saturday and circumstances on Sunday. How does it feel to be have the footballers the centre of attraction now?
Look, it is great. Like, I suppose, being the only Limerick kind of team that's kind of left in the competition, like, but like at the end of the day, like you can't not admire the hurlers. They're an incredible bunch of players. They've given Limerick people so much to shout about over the last number of years. Even what is it, five All-Ireland titles in 6 years, like, so like we're chasing them, still, like we want to do what they've done on the football side of things, like, but. No, look, it's great. I'm delighted with that. But we have a game to play in 3 weeks' time, like, and there's no point in talking about being like the hurlers, but we want to get over the line on Saturday in 3 weeks' time, like, and that's what it's about. And look, I'm sure they'd be happy enough to help us out with any questions that we have, or any advice that we can, or any advice that they could give us. We take it with open arms, like, So look, we look forward to 3 weeks' time, but. It's about training really hard now for the next 3 weeks and see where it takes us.
Peter, my last question to you, as a dual player with Kildimo Palace Kenry, one of the unintended consequences of this great run in the Talton Cup is that you may be confronted with playing 10 games in 11 weeks.
Yeah. I thought it'd be worse than 10 games in 11 weeks. I thought it might be 10 games in 9 weeks or something like that. So
don't rule that out either.
I thought it might be. I thought we might have to go to two a week there, maybe for one of the weeks, to see how we deal with it. But in fairness to the county board, they've put a really good kind of plan in place for the refix games, and it just means that players are going to get particularly the dual players, they're going to get their 7 days or their 6 days or whatever it is, depending on how the fixtures lie, to recover and get right. But you're probably asking, to a certain extent, a little bit of the wrong person here about that, because I just want to play every week. I view it as one of the huge upsides to be in dual, is that you don't get time to stew on a result. So you, like, whether you win or lose the week before, you're back in training on the Tuesday, you don't rest in your laurels and you drive on and you go again. So that's actually one of the things that I love about the championship and playing both of them. Now, there'll be potential upsides and downsides to it, and there'll be probably you'll have to get a little bit lucky with lads carrying maybe knocks into games and different things. But yeah, I'll still be rooting away at the dual and trying to go week to week to see how we get on.
Very good. Hopefully your brother will give you a bit of a break in between the matches as well, and the rest of them. But lads, we're wishing you the best anyway on July 12th. Hopefully a huge Limerick contingent gets behind you. I think Josh is embracing the bandwagon. We've no objections with that. Anyone that hasn't been to a football game is welcome to this one. There's no one getting in your way. Bring them all on, bring them all to Dublin, and hopefully a big green support there, and hopefully you can lower the colours of Kildare. So lads, we're wishing you the best on the 12th, and best of luck in the build up. Hopefully everything goes to plan, and we'll be chatting to you in a few weeks, lads, I'm sure.
Thanks a million, lads.
Cheers,
and
lads.
The best of luck.
See you.
All right. Cheers, lads. Okay. Yeah, thanks to Peter and Josh for joining us there. Yeah, Matt, brilliant to have the two lads on. And
absolutely, and brilliant of them to give their time,
Yes.
Like, both of them have made such a contribution to Limerick football over the years. Like, Josh's career, was on a knife edge, Tom.
It was. We didn't even touch on it there. Now I know he's probably been sick of being asked about it. We probably didn't touch on it there, but
no, I deliberately didn't touch on it. But it's just no harm to remind listeners and viewers that there was fears at one stage that Josh wouldn't play again. and it was an injury that he received in a hurling match. And of course, what we tend to forget about Josh is that he was almost equally accomplished. He's a fine, great footballer, and I suppose testimony to that is the way he has adapted from outfield to being a fine goalkeeper. But he was equally accomplished, Tom, at hurling. Josh was an outstanding hurler.
Yeah,
and actually he incurred the injury when playing hurling
in the county senior semi-final. But
county senior hurling semi-final. So we tend to forget that about him, But look, the two lads, but they're sort of a microcosm of the type of squad that Jimmy Lee has assembled. And you can hear them there today, how passionate they were about it, and how important they see their individual contributions, and they talked about the team ethos, and it's very, very heartening to see, Tom. And as I said to you at the very start, this team has extraordinary resilience, and I believe that it's a byproduct of the camaraderie that has been inculcated into the squad, and let Kildare be favourites.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, we'll come to that in more detail, and I'm sure we'll have someone else on to discuss it with us in the build up to it. But it's Saturday the 12th, 2:30. It's I guess a curtain raiser to one of the senior football semi-finals. There will be a big crowd at the game. We're just hoping that a lot of those are wearing the green and white of Limerick to support them. Just to mention, I touched on it there with the lads. Meet and greet your heroes tomorrow, Thursday, the 26th of June in McNeville Park, 6:30 to 7:15. Great chance for kids and young supporters to get along and meet the lads and get their jerseys signed.
I would appeal, Tom, and I would re-echo your appeal that the people turn out in force and show their appreciation of what these lads have achieved. You must remember, Tom, they have suffered one defeat and in the last 11 matches. That was to Cork in the Munster Championship. Their last 11 matches, their record is played 11, won 9, drew 1, lost 1.
Yeah, and just
I thought I'd never see the day when I'd be talking about a Limerick football team doing that in the one season.
Their overall record for the year is only 2 defeats out of what am I thinking now? Is 13 games? Yeah, so two draws, 2 defeats, and the remainder the 9 victories, isn't it?
9 victories.
9 victories. I know we joked in this before about Limerick winning 4 games in a row in championship football. They've won 5 in a row now, Matt, as well, which is a record for the county. And look, I know people will quickly knock and say, it's the Tailteann Cup, but they have beaten some very, very good teams. We mentioned Westmeath, they beat Wicklow, obviously Wexford. These teams are very much at Limerick's level, if not above it in some instances, and Limerick have found a way to win these games. Obviously, the London and Antrim games as well is also what I'm referring to. But yeah, so 6:30 to 7:15.
It's a long way back to 1896, Tom. I wasn't around at the time, believe it or not. I'm around a long time, but not quite as long as that. But I would imagine that time they probably played 2 or 3 matches to win the All-Ireland.
Yeah, I think I looked at it before off the top of my head. I think it was 3. I think they played 2 in Munster and it was a straight final, or maybe the opposite.
I'll have it checked out before the final anyway. But usually in those early days it was 2 or 3 games, and like Limerick were represented, I'd say, by commercials.
Certainly in the 1887 final, was it, or 1886 final they were, But no, it's remarkable when you put it in that context, Matt, that while Limerick football has had some high points in the last 100 and odd years, and it has had some low points too, but it has had some great players, some great teams, but we have never reached another final or even close to it, really. There's been, I think, quarter final just over a decade ago. Like, we've been in the wilderness for so long, and now there's a platform with the Tailteann Cup to be in a big national final. Go on, you're itching to come in there.
I'm reaching to give you a little fact, Tom.
Let's hear it.
Limerick have a unique record in All-Ireland senior football finals.
2 for 2, I think, is it? Yeah, 2 for 2. 2 in
They've
the only
never
team
been beaten.
not lose one. That's it. Yeah.
There were 2 other counties with them up to recently, Donegal and Down.
Right.
Both have fell in finals since. There were 3 counties that had never been beaten in a final: Limerick, Donegal, and Down. But now Down lost to Cork in 2010. Donegal lost to
Kerry, wasn't it? The Kieran
Yeah.
Donaghy, what do you make of
Yeah.
that, Joe Bolly? What was that? Was
Yeah.
it 15,
Oh,
I
yes,
think, was it?
yes.
2015?
2015.
Think
So Limerick alone are the only county to reach an All-Ireland senior football final and not taste defeat.
Right. We might keep that intact for a while yet, unfortunately, because it does seem a little bit far away to get to a senior final. But then again, we're building hopefully from this year onwards. Just to look at it, the 1896 All-Ireland Senior Football, just for those interested, Limerick won 4 games. They won 3 games in Munster. They beat Cork 1-2 to 1-1. They beat Tipperary 2-4 to 6 points. They beat Waterford 4 points to 1 in the Munster final played in Mallow. And then they beat the Dubs 1-5 to 7 points on the 6th of January, 1898. And yes, that is 1898, and it was the 1896 final. But such it was at the time, Matt, finals being delayed and pushed back and agreeing dates and all that.
Shenanigans going on and all that sort of thing.
That was kind of commonplace in hurling and football finals until the 20s, where the finals were played out
back in those days. But no trace of Kerry at that stage.
Right. Well, no harm at all. But Con Fitzgerald was listed as the Limerick captain, I believe, from Glyn direction. Yes. So, so fair play to him and his teammates back then. But new history, hopefully, going to be written in a couple of weeks' time in Croke Park. And
yes, historians will be digging deep anyway, and myself.
There's a reference point from.
Not that I'm a historian, but that I'm interested in history. But there will be historians digging deep and trying to unearth, what happened 129 years ago.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Well, fair play to our current crop as well. So, that's it, the Tailteann Cup, and obviously the night tomorrow night. Great chance for supporters to get on and meet the lads.
And they should turn out in force.
Yeah, it would be great. It would be great if the numbers were there for them. Okay, Matt, that was the senior men's football. I think we'll just jump to the ladies footballers. They were playing at a similar time, 1:00 start in Sligo. Championship was on the line. Things did not go to plan, I'm afraid. In Sligo, you're kind of scratching your eyes there, Matt. Sligo pulled away. I think it was a 2-13.
I saw the game, Tom.
2-13 to 1-4 was it in the end?
2-13 to 1-4. Very, 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 very disappointing. Now, look, Limerick were well in it in the first half. They had, I won't say the lion's share of possession, but they had equal possession in the first half, and they were playing against a very, very strong breeze. Now, Sligo were leading by 8 points to 2, coming up to just coming up to half time, and Rebecca DeLee got a great goal, a great finish from a pass from Roisin Ambrose that picked her out. And at 8 points to 1-2, now Sligo got a point after leading by 9 points to 4 at half time. And you said to yourself, with the strength of the breeze, that Limerick are really, really in the game. And, hopes even went higher immediately after half-time when Caoimhe McNamara narrowed the gap to 3 points within 2 minutes of the restart. And you said, here goes. But it was a false dawn, Tom. Sligo took over. Sinead O'Regan, their captain at midfield, was absolutely enormous. She drove them on. And then you had Tara Breheny, who was wing back, raiding up. She ended up with a goal and 2 points, even though she was playing at left half back. And you had Leah Duffy and Ellen Kelleher. They had some very good players who hit top form on the day. And our girls just didn't seem like Sligo strangled the life and death out of the game in the second half when they were playing against the breeze. Like the opportunities that Limerick got were very few and far between. After that point from Caoimhe McNamara, we only got another score in the other 28 minutes of the half. A point from Caoimhe McNamara again in the 47th minute. We were really still in the hunt, even though Sligo had got a goal. Now 2-13 to 1-4 is a bit flattering to Sligo because the Sarah Feeney's goal, I missed her name at the moment. She's Sarah anyway.
Yeah.
I think she's Serafini. She got a goal at the very last minute, which really put a very bad complexion on it from a Limerick point of view. But it was a day, in summary, Tom, that Limerick certainly didn't show up in the second half.
Right.
Now, how much they put in a huge effort in containment in the first half. And you wonder, did they empty the tank to a certain degree? Because there was rain falling, which meant that the ground was heavy, Tom, and
Yes.
it was an energy sapping ground and an energy sapping terrain. But look, that doesn't sugarcoat what was a very, very disappointing end to the season for Limerick, because I honestly believed, Tom, and I genuinely believed, and this is not green mist in my eyes, that Limerick were going to beat Sligo.
Yeah,
And
I got that sense after last week, man. Yeah.
With jolly good reason to believe it, Tom, for the simple reason that Limerick consolidated in Division 3. Sligo failed to get out of Division 4. We won the Munster Senior B. But I think Limerick's season really turned in that last 5 minutes, Tom, and you were there in Doon against Louth.
Oh, it certainly did. Yeah, Limerick had the winning of the game, Matt. They had the winning of the game. They were gone from five down to 1 up?
Yeah. Had Limerick won that game, they would have, going to Sligo, they would have gone in a very strong position. I believe they would have qualified irrespective of the result in Sligo.
Yeah, well, they would have. Yeah, that's true. That was
very, very disappointing.
In a very, very good position.
Like the management and the girls, they put in a huge effort during the year, Tom. Absolutely massive effort, and they had the full support of their county board. Everything. It is so disappointing. I'm really disappointed about it, because I honestly thought that they were going to have a shot at the All-Ireland this year. Now, had they finished second, which was the likelihood, they would have been facing Antrim. And we've all this who shall about Antrim that they weren't beaten this year, but they were in Division 4, Tom.
They were. Just to kind of bring it to its conclusion, Matt, on the ladies' side of it, unfortunately, they played 10 games in 12 weeks, and I wonder, was that catching up on them a little bit come Sunday afternoon? As you mentioned, the ground a bit heavier.
Possibly, Tom. Possibly, yeah. And the conditions were the same for Sligo.
Of course, yeah.
But they had Limerick, they put in a massive effort in the first half, Tom.
Yeah, we've referenced that. We referenced that for other teams this year, Matt. With putting in that too much effort almost in a half, and just not being able to rise themselves.
Actually, one of the games that stands out is Limerick Minors against Waterford and Dungarvan.
Yeah, and look who's in the All-Ireland minor final now.
Yeah, when Limerick were level going in at half time, having played against a strong breeze.
Yeah, couldn't raise in the second half. But look, just to round out the ladies for inter-county for this year, obviously at this juncture anyway, Matt, as we're saying in the All-Ireland series, disappointing. But before that, I think mission accomplished in Munster by winning that Senior B crown again, defending it, and then back in the league as well. Competitive.
Mission accomplished in the league, Tom, because the last time they were in Division 3 in 2017, they couldn't buy a win.
Yeah.
And we got 2 wins and a draw. We ran Cavan, who won it to a single point in Breffni Park. We definitely should have beaten Down. I was at that game, So could have beaten Wexford.
Yeah, reasons to be optimistic, Matt, I think is where you're getting.
There are reasons. There are reasons to be optimistic if the squad stays together.
Yeah, that's the big imponderable, and it is challenging, especially for the female players, as we know, don't quite get the same, I suppose, expenses or otherwise to continue at inter-county level. So generally, the careers can be that little bit shorter. So the concern there is maybe the team might break up a bit. But look, let's see what happens.
I don't want to speculate about any retirements. No. There could possibly be retirements, but it's the nature of the beast, Tom. People can't go on forever. And yeah, look, Tom, it was a disappointing end to a season that promised so much. Now, you were sort of going into when you were going into the league, it was a shot into the unknown to a certain degree, for the simple reason that, the experience of having been there in 2017 and wasn't a very pleasant experience, and you didn't know how Limerick would make the jump up, because promotion, brings with it many, many challenges, as you know. But Limerick adapted to life in Division 3 and were really out of danger of relegation with about 3 games to go.
They were,
Got a very, very good draw against Laois, who played in the Senior Championship 2 years ago.
Yeah, very fair point. Yeah, but look, commiserations to the ladies and indeed the management as well on, I suppose, not achieving what I guess was probably their ultimate goal of getting back towards Croke Park anyway, getting out of the group and going from there, but not to be on this occasion. Matt, I think we have to turn to hurling. I know a lot of our listeners will tune in specifically to listen to hurling, and I tell you, when I sat in this seat last week, I would have thought any person who told me that Dublin were going to beat Limerick would have been a bit misplaced, shall we say? And I thought that while Limerick would not coast to victory here, would certainly have too much for the Dubs, and that was with the greatest respect. We just know how consistent this Limerick team has been since John Kiley has taken over in 2017, and mainly from 2018 onwards. Obviously, I'm referencing there. Nobody saw this coming, Matt. Dublin were the most deserving of winners on the day. They played without their captain for, 55 plus minutes of this game. Limerick eventually forged themselves ahead with a string of scores, and then I think 2 goals in about 35 or 6 seconds basically turned it all on its head, and Limerick couldn't get back ahead. I don't know. I was in shock, Matt. I didn't leave Croke Park. I was there working away, as you would well know, and it was nearly 9 o'clock or even after before I left Croke Park, and I honestly thought I was dreaming, Matt, or something. I thought I was going to wake up. I just couldn't believe that Limerick had lost this game in the manner as well that it had come. Your thoughts, please, Matt. I don't even know what to say to you, but your thoughts.
Yeah, Tom, I'm shocked, but I'm shocked. But I wasn't surprised that Dublin were going to put up a serious challenge. But I didn't for 1 minute think that Dublin were going to win it, and I certainly didn't contemplate for 1 minute even that they were going to win it with 14 players. But Tom, if you look back on it, it was one in many ways that got away, because you would have to say that the normal Limerick that we know wouldn't have conceded the 2 goals.
Yeah,
they were of a sloppy nature, and at the other end, then, like the save by Sean Brennan from Aaron Gillan has to be the save of the year.
It does, yeah. It led to a point. Limerick lost by 2. There's 2 points left behind, so to speak, or stopped in the case of Sean Brennan. Not always as simple as that, but a big moment in the game, a huge moment in the game. Really, it was with 10 minutes, exactly 10 minutes of normal time to go as well.
Yeah, but looking at the game overall over the 70 minutes, Limerick were below par. I thought Limerick were below their performance in the Munster final.
Yeah.
They were miles below their performance against Cork in the group phase. So, you just wonder. And I see people writing them off, the keyboard warriors. I see people looking for John Kiley's head. Would they ever get lost, those people? And engage in common sense analysis of what happened. Like these players, Tom, they're 8 years on the road at the very top. They have won 14 major competitions.
Yeah.
Tell me another team in the history of the game that have done it in that length of time. And there's bound to be wear and tear there. And the sharpness, Tom, the sharpness that we have become so accustomed to, it hasn't been there with any level of consistency this year.
No, it hasn't. Just a few things, Matt.
Spade, Tom.
Yeah,
And no fault of John Kiley, no fault of Paul Kennard, no fault of the backroom team, no fault of the players. It's the natural progression.
Yeah, just a few things that illustrate, like I suppose we were talking after the Munster final about how for the entire duration of these podcasts, the 330 out of them, that Limerick were basically Munster champions for all of them, which is bizarre. But Limerick, the only championships Limerick didn't win since they made the breakthrough in 18, they didn't win the 2019 All-Ireland, they didn't win the Munster Championship this year, and they didn't win the All-Ireland that year. That's 3 championships out of, top of my head, is it 10 or 11, something like that? When you must remember, at this point you have Cork coming to the table.
3 championships out of 14, Tom.
Yeah,
because they won 11 of them.
Sorry, yeah, there we go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 3 out of 14. Well, 4 out of 14, isn't it? Or anyway, sorry,
3 out of 14 because they won 5 All Irelands and 6 Munsters.
Yeah, 11
7
out of
years.
14. Yeah. Yeah, when you put, I think that's a simple way of breaking it down of what they achieved. Now this year, obviously, we're 0 for 2. Didn't win Munster and didn't win the All Ireland. But to illustrate your point about the wear and tear, 12 championship games between 2025 and 2024, Matt, we've won 6 of them. And I know there's little caveats with lots of them. Draws sometimes are not bad results. Like in Thurles this year, didn't really affect things, but we didn't win the game. The game against Clare in the last round didn't really matter. We lost it, but nevertheless, the signs for some players that maybe were not at their optimum level, were probably there in that game. But it just shows that Limerick have kind of come back to the pack, because in the 2 years before that, Limerick more or less won every game. In 2022 and 2023, Limerick more or less won every game across the championships. I think it was a draw. It was their loss to Clare in there, and a draw or 2 in there as well. But the record has slipped a little bit. The league, I thought John Kiley maybe was playing with the mind games with these players in the last round against Wexford. He wasn't happy with that performance. He was kind of saying it was one of the poorest performances he's seen in a long while. And I'm paraphrasing, of course, but maybe the signs were there in the league that things weren't.
They were, Tom, and they were there in Kilkenny. They were there against Wexford. They were there against Clare in the league.
Yeah.
Like you would have said, like going to Kilkenny, that you had a real good chance of getting 2 points there. We were never in the game really there.
No, it was over after 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes, isn't it? Yeah.
Then we faced Clare and Wexford at home, and you'd say to yourself, that was a banker 4 points. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Now they drew with Tipperary in the first round, which in hindsight was a good result, even though we were the more likely team to win it. Limerick seemed to be back a long way towards their old selves in the game against Waterford in Walsh Park, and that was confirmed actually when they played Cork.
Yeah, and everything was rosy all of a sudden again. Limerick had 5 points out of 6, and
they were into a Munster final. They were playing Clare. Clare, who were already out of the championship. Limerick didn't field the full team, and you kind of dismissed it and said, that was the right way to go about it, probably, and protect players for the Munster final. And then we had the classic, the Munster final, Tom, has been defined and has been overshadowed by this outrageous way it finished with these penalties. But it was a very, very good Munster final, but it took an awful lot out of the Limerick players now. And then, as John Kiley made the point after the game on Sunday, we didn't lose the Munster final. We drew the Munster final.
Yeah.
But we still won Munster champions because of that quirk of nonsense.
What I would say about the Munster final, and while I wholeheartedly agree, Limerick, Cork didn't beat Limerick in the 90-odd minutes of action. I watched back a fair chunk of it, Matt. In the meantime, before this Dublin game, there was signs of maybe players being a little bit off where we expect. But again, when I say that, it feels like I'm criticizing, but it's actually the bar has been set extraordinarily high. We
But
expect.
who set it high, Tom?
Oh, I know that sure by themselves, of course. But we
Yes.
expect every 15-yard pass to go to hand,
Yeah.
and the hand pass then to be put to hand, and the shot then to go over the bar.
Yeah.
But I did see some analysis of Limerick's last couple of games, and it's only the last two games, as well as the Cork game in the All Ireland semi-final last year. They're the only three games in the last since 2018 that Limerick have had fewer shots from play than their opposition. Now I know sometimes you can get muddled in stats, but it does say to me that opposition have figured out a little bit more about Limerick, and they have kind of, have found a way of upsetting and indeed in these cases defeating Limerick.
Tom, I think you said a mouthful earlier on there in this discussion when you said Limerick have come back into the pack.
Yeah. Would you agree?
I'm inclined to think that Limerick have come back into the pack rather than the pack have caught up on Limerick.
You think Limerick have fallen after their, as I say, their very high standard?
They have reached their zenith, I think. And that little bit of finesse that was there, that great finesse that was there, which was, which, let's face it, Tom, brought hurling to a new level.
Yeah.
That is not there to the same degree that it was.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would disagree with you on that. I don't think John Kiley himself could disagree with that. Yeah,
there is no one to blame for that. These lads and the management team have been 8 years on the road, Tom. These lads have given up half of their lives, for our gratification and for everybody's gratification. I know you'll say they get All Ireland medals and all that sort of thing. But from November to July every year, these guys have given up their normal lives.
Yeah.
And they can't, Tom, we're talking about human beings here. We're not talking about robots.
No, absolutely, yeah. And there's people quick to say this fella should retire, that fella should retire, but
ignore them.
Oh, I know, but the players
don't be doing your head in with those people. Ignore them.
Right, I'll flip it the other way, Matt. So, reasons to be cheerful heading into 2026. One thing is there'll probably be these lads will get a bit of a break, a mental break, as much as anything for the next 5 or 6 weeks. I know they'll be back in club action then, and obviously some of them will then have a bit of a winter off. The younger players, Matt, Aidan O'Connor, Shane O'Brien, Adam English. The future is still very, very bright with those. We don't need to have 7 or 8 players. Yeah. Fergal O'Connor yet to make the real breakthrough, but on the bench, Ethan Hurley, Paddy O'Donovan. Some of these, obviously, Fitzgibbon, when Cathal O'Neill, hopefully now will get a full run of health.
Yeah. Hopefully Cathal O'Neill will get a full run injury-free.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. Sorry,
Cathal has been dogged by injury this year.
People forget he got injured pretty well in December, right? And he came back in the Fitzgibbon final for 20 minutes, and fair play. He obviously determined to line up.
I actually met him the week of the league final, and he was absolutely gung ho for the league final. Little did he think, or little did I think, that he would pick up an injury which would have such an impact on his season. And Tom, an impact for Limerick too.
Yeah, but the match the injuries that's kind of forgotten, and it was kind of a bit of a forgotten game. You talked about it a few minutes ago, the Kilkenny game. He got injured in that game again.
Yeah.
And again derailed his plans, and his coming to fruition and coming to fitness, I should say, and just hasn't got to that standard. And but I think Shane O'Brien was probably has probably been injured a little bit or a little bit off colour in the last few games, but let's not be recency bias against him, because let's look back at the Tipperary game, 1-4 from play, was it? The Waterford game, 4 points in play, unlucky not to have a goal. Some of the performances in the league, this guy has levels, and this guy will come back again. Aidan O'Connor the other day, things didn't go 100% again, but my God, he's a great asset for this team, and
of course
has only started 2 championship games now, but the sky is the limit for these guys, I think, and maybe it's a complete reset of the team and how it's set up and all the rest of it is
hugely important for those young players that we mentioned, and I include Colin Coughlin in that, and Paddy Donovan and Ethan Hurley and Fergal O'Connor.
Yeah,
the Limerick Championships will not overtax them to the same degree as dual players, because I think none of them play football.
To the best of my knowledge, no, you wouldn't see much football from them down the years, and that's another thing, Matt. That's where their focus has been, everything hurling, trying to get themselves into that Limerick team. And look, I'll be very interested, onlooker as will you, Matt, when the club championships roll around in 4 or 5 weeks for these lads to see what they can produce, and among others, like other parts of the panel, but I think
Keane Scully is another man that should come into the reckoning,
Yeah, I think though, if you just look at the panel overall, there is so much optimism still there. Peter Casey has only come back from injury not that long ago, has been inching his way back, and I think next year, if he gets a clean run through the club championships, there's no reason why he couldn't become a starter next year for Limerick. And there's another asset there. It's and obviously. John Kiley has another year at the helm. He signed a 2-year deal, or agreed a 2-year deal last autumn. So, they could change things. They could plot new routes for players. And
like John Kiley has a record, of course, as a manager, is second to none. But he has a fine record too, as well, Tom, for scouring the county for players during the club championships. You can see him turning up here, there, and everywhere during the club championships. There is very few players. There's no player that can catch a hurl in this county that John Kiley doesn't know about.
Yeah, and I think there's another reason to be optimistic, is maybe some players who are not in the panel or not quite on it at the moment might look and say now is the time. There has been obviously a loss of the Munster Championship and things haven't gone to plan after that. So maybe now is the door might be ajar, and there might be the chance for them to open it for themselves, So it could lead itself to some exciting performances across the grades in the club championships. But look, in fairness, Matt, just to bring it back to the game itself, we must tip our hats to Dublin. I mean, to play.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
To play with 14 men for so long, they got so much right. They really troubled the Limerick puck out. They did well on their own. They hit some fantastic scores. Worked like animals. That they did to Limerick what Limerick would have done to them a few years ago.
Absolutely, and the way they closed down space, the intensity they brought to it, the work rate they brought to it. Limerick weren't able to find the spaces because they closed it down, which was phenomenal with 14 players. And you were saying that they had a good run up to half time, and you'd be saying to yourself, have they burned themselves out now? Can they sustain this? But my God, they did, Tom.
They did, yeah. After the red card to halftime was 21 minutes or something like that. 10 points to 5, including I think 4 or 5 in a row there at one stage. I was saying, do they have 14? It's the greatest. That's the best compliment.
1918 ahead, then the 2 goals arrived.
Yes.
And when I saw that going over, I think it was Adam English sent it over. Was it for the lead point? I'm not sure now, but
it was Galan or English, one or the other. Yeah, I can't remember.
Whoever sent it over, anyway. I said to myself, "Here goes now. We're on the run in."
Yeah, I'm just looking at my poorly done notes. 51. I just wrote down Declan Hannon came on for Barry Nash. Adam English scored a point. 52. John Heatherton 118. 53. Cian O'Sullivan 218, and a bit like the reverse of the footballers, Matt. In around the 50th minute, things started to change and change for the worse in this case. But look, I think Limerick will still be very much in the mix in the Munster Championship next year. They'll be very much in the mix for All Ireland honours in the coming years. There's we will not be writing their obituary in this podcast anyway. Let someone else do that. We won't be.
Let the keyboard warriors at that. That some of them are having a field day, but thanks be to God, there's an awful lot of people out there on social media and on the different platforms who have common sense and
Yes,
plenty of common
there is
sense.
actually. There is. Yeah, yeah. No, I
And
saw it. And
see the wood from the trees and put a reality check in these people.
yeah, no, that's it. I think people, a lot of the true Limerick fans, Matt, you'd see, and particularly on Facebook. I know the supporters group, as we know, is a great resource. There's a lot of people there speaking a lot of common sense, that they've had some fantastic days in the last decade, really, in a lot of, in a lot of cases, through between 21s and senior, and they're not thrown in the towel either. So I think it's fair to say that they'll be back in their draws next year to support this Limerick team anyway. But look,
Of course they will.
can't play every year, and it'll be down to 4 anyway.
Nowhere, Tom. This is the bottom line. Limerick senior hurlers are going nowhere. Now, players might go,
so
players
Dublin
might retire, but the Limerick senior hurling brand is going nowhere.
Absolutely, yeah. So we'll next see them action, of course, for their clubs in the senior and Premier Intermediate, etc., all those championships at the end of the month and start of August. Okay, Matt, just before we move to camogie, just to mention, I'll let you come in as well in a minute. Just there on screen, probably not the biggest image in the world, but the Munster wheelchair side are in action. Sorry, no, my whole screen is kind of freezing on me here, but they're in action in Mary this weekend. And apologies, no, it's just frozen on me. Yeah, so they're playing Connacht, Ulster, and Leinster in a blitz. There's an underage blitz there as well. You see the poster on screen for those watching. A big day for the lads, and just to mention some of the Limerick involvement. I know, Matt, you'll be familiar with the name Kieran Bennis, wouldn't you?
Yes, definitely. Morris Noonan.
Just as well as him, you have Steve Casey of Bruff, you have Darren Deneen
Steve,
from St. Kieran's,
Steve, yeah.
Cormac, Morris Noonan of Granite. Morris Noonan is Greta Gary O'Halloran, Ballybrown, Ellie Sheehy is Newcastle West. And you mentioned the name Morris Noonan, Matt. He's the leading goal scorer after the first round with just double everyone else. He's 10 goals got the first day.
Yes.
But a fantastic competition for all involved. Munster very, very successful in the first round. So they basically play everyone every day that they meet. This one has been hosted in Limerick. Limerick won their first 3 games by an impressive enough margin. Ulster in second, Connacht third, and Leinster bringing up the rear at this point. But a fantastic competition, Matt. It's not something I've ever witnessed. I won't lie to you. But a fantastic platform for these lads to get involved in the game of hurling. When obviously the I suppose the traditional field 15 aside is not available to them. So this is a superb initiative for them to get involved in. It's obviously a fantastic community that runs it in Munster and beyond.
Absolutely, and one of them is one of our own county board officers who has dedicated some great work to it. Jerry McNamara, our children's officer, is very, very much part of promoting and has done an awful lot of work for the wheelchair hurling, and fair dues to Jerry. Like a quite spoken man, does his job as Limerick's children's officer, and has done a power of work with the Munster wheelchair team. Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're wishing the lads and ladies the best of luck at the weekend. I suppose on home soil in Mary Immaculate College. They're actually getting underway from 10:30, and as I said, they're playing off against the other 3 provinces. So it's the M. Donnelly GA Wheelchair Hurling and Camogie Interprovincial League. This is round 2, so we'll be keeping an eye on the results over the weekend. So best of luck.
Just mention M. Donnelly there.
Yes,
Tom. He's a wonderful sponsor.
He's involved in Puck Fada as well, isn't it?
He's involved in the Puck Fada and was involved in the dying embers of the Railway Cup.
Yes.
Try to keep him alive, but great. It's very easy to support the big competitions, Tom. But when you support the lesser competitions, and that's not in any way demeaning the wheelchair hurling or anything, but fair dues to him to come on board to support people that are making one fantastic effort, as you said there. The wheelchair hurling is absolutely fantastic for people who cannot be exposed to the normal game out on the field. So it's absolutely fantastic, and fantastic that he's also on board for the Puck Fada.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to bring me in as a guest for the puck fada, I'll give it a lash, but maybe not. I know he has a couple of sponsor invites, but it won't be me this year. Anyway, Matt, you're about to say
John
something very.
Close is goalkeeper. We're going to put him forward for the puck fada next year.
Yeah, sponsored by Sporting Limerick, but I don't know how far John will go. But anyway, we'll see. But as I said, thanks to Kieran for Kieran Bennis and Patrick Swell for sending me that info as well. And
when Joe hears that I give him an honourable mention, he'll have my guts for garters on Saturday. just mention of Saturday. Saturday is the 4th annual Fedimore Senior Hurling Tournament, Tom. For the W.P. Clifford Cup, a former president of the association and a former chairman of Limerick County Board for many years. There are 4 very interesting teams this year, Tom. Fecal, who are the Clare Senior Hurling champions, they will meet Mount Leinster Rangers from Carlow at 12 o'clock in Fedimore in the first semi-final. Now, Mount Leinster Rangers were Leinster club champions in 2013 and were beaten in the All-Ireland final by Port Tumna. Now, in the second semi-final, now Fecal will possibly have Ivor Quilligan in goals. Now, possibility of Adam Hogan, although I think he's doubtful. The Young Hurler of the Year would be among their ranks. Mount Leinster Rangers have 11 of the Carlow Senior Hurling panel. Now, the second semi-final is between Turin from Mayo. And we can remember Turin, Tom, from 2022, was it? When they ran Monaleen very close in the All-Ireland Intermediate Clubs final. And they will be playing Lismore, a Lismore squad who will include Maurice Shanahan, Dan the Man, who currently is nursing an injury, Jack Prendergast, Corrup Daly, Irlet Daly. So it's going to be a great day of hurling, Tom. And the second semi-final is at 1 o'clock, and then we'll have the Shield final and the Cup final. So it's always a great day of hurling in Fedimore. And it's a day when there is no Limerick team in action, apart from the Masters football, and I'll come to that in a minute. The top-class hurling, there has been top-class hurling in Fedimore for the last 3 years. This is the 4th annual Fedimore tournament. And they really, really pushed the boat out to get teams. Like Brother Pierce's came all the way from London last year to participate in it. They really pushed the boat out. And there are two very attractive semi-finals. Fecal and Mount Leinster Rangers, Turin and Lismore. And then you'll have a Shield final and a Cup final. It's always a fantastic day of hurling, Tom. And it is in Fedimore, and it kicks off at 12 noon this Saturday.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. And William P. Clifford, or W.P. Clifford, I think as he was known, I just reading here, he was Limerick GA chairman for 18 years, 1921 to 1939. Heavily involved in the purchase of the Gaelic rounds. So,
yes.
There's a man to thank every time we head to the Ennis Road. President of the GA from 1926 to 1928, and he was Munster GA chairman from 1932 to 1936. So obviously a very, very prominent
I might be subject
administrator in that era,
this, I might be subject to correction in this, but I think he's one of only 2 Limerick men that have held the presidency of the association, along with F.B. Deneen of Ballylanders. Just time, Tom, that we had a president.
Okay, and the W.P. Clifford tournament, so Matt, throwing in 12 o'clock this Saturday in Fedimore, and you can pay on the gate with plenty of people expected heading to Fedimore, and one of the best pitches in the county, if I do say so as well.
Absolutely,
Matt,
Tom,
moving to the Masters, Matt.
Tom,
tell us, bring us up to speed.
The Masters hurlers were out last Saturday in Doon, and they beat Kildare. You recall last year, Tom, that the Masters hurlers, it was their first year, and didn't go very well for them in that they were close in a lot of games, but didn't win any. But included they lost the game to Kildare as well in Kildare, but they put that right last Saturday. They beat Kildare 6-27 to 111, which was a huge win, and it means now that Limerick have 2 wins out of 3. And they're on course for the knockout stages, Tom. They have 2 games coming up. They have Tipperary on the 12th of July, and which is the day of the Tarleton Cup final. The Tipperary, who are All-Ireland champions, they have them in Claughaun, and then they have a game with Galway to come up after that. A Galway team that drew with Cork, and Limerick in turn had beaten Cork. But go back to the game. I think at halftime last week, Limerick led by something like 2:15 to 1-7 at halftime.
Yeah.
Now, Michael McKenna from Doon got 4 goals in the game.
Not too bad.
4 goals.
He knows every hop of the ball
in the first half, and he got 2 in the second half. And it was another former Doon man that got one of the other goals was Roger Ryan. And you will remember Roger. He has moved to Kildimo Palace Kennery, and he captained Kildimo Palace Kennery to win the All-Ireland Junior B competition earlier this year. And the 6th goal came from Willem Stanners. So it was a comprehensive victory, Tom, and like 2 from 3, Limerick are in a good place to qualify for a knockout game in the competition, which would be absolutely fantastic. Now on Saturday at 1:00, the footballers will be at home for the first time in 4 games when they take on the combination of Leitrim and Longford. And it's in St. John's Park and Hospital at 1 p.m. Now, Limerick lost to Kerry in the first round in Brosna, to Clare in the second round, I think, was it in Kilmaley or in Tulla, but had a good win over Waterford in the third round. And they face a Leitrim Longford side with a similar record. They lost to Roscommon in the first round, beat Monaghan in the second round, and lost to Galway the last time. But it's a game that neither side have much leeway to lose, Tom, if they're to qualify for the knockout stages, because like we're into the 4th round now and games are running out, and Limerick will really need to make home advantage count. But they're taking on Leitrim Longford in round 4 in St. John's Park in Hospital on Saturday at 1 p.m. And they would like any support possible to come in. I don't know, have you seen Masters football, Tom? I have seen it. It is quite entertaining. It is quite entertaining and good quality football played. There are players who are still playing with their clubs playing it, Tom, but are in the twilights of their career, and there are players who haven't retired very, only a short while ago. And it's a great competition. There's a great social aspect to it, and it's an opportunity for players to extend their playing careers. And Tom, like we're doing quite well this year. If we can pick up a win in the football over Leitrim Longford on Saturday, we'll have 2 wins in both.
Yeah. Hopefully, fingers crossed for the lads. So in Hospital the weekend, a 1 p.m. start. Okay, Matt, moving last but not least to camogie. A difficult afternoon, Matt is putting it mildly, in Cappamore for the senior camogie side. All but out of the competition now. Obviously, Limerick have finished their games. 1 win, 1 draw, and 2 heavy defeats to Cork and Tipperary. Tipperary walking away with this one, Matt, 30 points.
The permutation, Tom, is that Tipperary have to beat Clare by 60 points for Limerick to qualify. Not going to happen.
Not going to happen, yeah.
Limerick, last year Limerick were beaten by Tipperary by 29 points. on a day in which the average losing margin in the 6 games on the Senior Camogie Championship that were played that day was 25 points. You know, they call it the Senior Camogie Championship. I think, Tom, that it's long past the time that they should redesignate it as the Senior Camogie Farce.
Right.
Because it's nothing but a farce. An absolute farce. And I think Joe Quaid put it very nicely in his post-match interview, you know, when he spoke about the strength of Tipperary and Cork and spoke about whilst Limerick were at their own level with being in the same, at the same level of development as Wexford and Clare. And Limerick and Wexford and Limerick and Clare were 2 fantastic games. Now, Limerick got a win and got a draw out of them. But that is the level that Limerick are at. This is the reality of it, Tom. The dogs on the street can see it. The dogs on the street are backing it. But the only people that can see it are the Camogie authorities in Croke Park.
Can I play devil's advocate for a second, Matt? But go back 7 or 8 years, 2018. Now I don't recall the exact results in the championship, but did we have Limerick were more competitive? I think it's fair to say they were a bit closer to Kilkenny and Cork.
Yes.
Was there other teams in the competition that Kilkenny, Cork, and Galway would lay siege to and beat by 20 odd points routinely? Was that a regular feature? No.
Wexford were much better. Clare were much better. Limerick were much better. Limerick won the Munster Championship in 2017.
Okay, yeah. I'm just wondering though. Yeah, it's the last 3 or 4 years has been particularly lopsided, isn't it?
I'm calling on the Camogie Association, Tom, to wake up.
Yeah.
They introduced an under-23 competition. Farce Mark II. That's what I call it.
Right.
A pure farce. Limerick went out in the under-23 competition on 3 days and they were unable to draw the under-23 players from the senior panel because the games were played at the same weekend. One after another in below an Innis.
Right.
Crazy stuff, Tom. This you couldn't write this thing. You couldn't, it's time, Tom. Will those people in Croke Park wake up or get off the pitch? No,
yeah,
and I'm actually just stronger. They're doing a disservice to Camogie. It's long past the time that the Limerick and the Clares and the Waterford are making some shape, and the Wexford. And it's not without making effort. Joe Quaid and his management team and his squad of girls put in a massive effort this year. You know it, Tom.
So the Limerick...
Joe told you just as he told me the effort that they had been put in.
Yeah.
But there are 2 standards. Call a spade a spade. There are 2 standards. There are 2 levels.
There's need, Matt, for cut across you there. There's need for a 4th tier in Camogie, because at intermediate level you have the likes of Westmeath, I think, are one of the teams. Limerick are far too strong for them.
Yeah.
So putting Limerick out of the senior championship or whoever there's another tier is needed for sure. Whether it's
my solution to it, Tom, and I conveyed it to the president of the association, is something akin to the Limerick Senior Hurling Championship, where you have 6 A teams and you have 6 B teams. And the top 2 teams in the B competition get a chance of a quarter final.
Yeah. Could you see the situation? And again, I'm just trying to tease it out with you. Could you see, if, for example, if Limerick were to have finished 2nd in that group, just for argument's sake, and then they could be facing Tipperary in the quarter final, you'd end up with the same result?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the worry that I'd have with such a format. I'm not saying it has its merits, because you'd end up with 5 or 6 competitive games in each group, But who would vote for it or who would vote against it would be the thing, because some counties would say, hang on a second now, that puts us at jeopardy of missing out because we'd be in the top 6, Take a Waterford, for example.
The top 6 would be saying to themselves, or at least the top 4 would be saying to themselves, isn't it lovely? We get 2 or 3 soft matches, and we're into the knockout stages. You're not going to ask turkeys to vote for Christmas.
Yeah, that's the problem I see with it. But anyway, Matt, any green shoots from Limerick in the performance at the weekend?
Actually, Tom, it was very hard in the circumstances
Yes.
to see green shoots. But in terms of effort, Tom, the girls gave it everything. And I mean everything. You saw what they gave against Clare. They gave it everything. They gave it everything in Cappamore last Sunday. Fair dues to last Saturday. Fair dues to Cappamore again. And I've been saying it. Their facilities are second to none. Their pitch was in pristine condition. Their hospitality is second to none. And the girls gave it everything, Tom. But there is that disparity in standard.
No doubt about it.
It's not for you and me to solve it. We can keep roaring about it. But it's the powers that be that have to find a formula to resolve it. For instance, the under-23 competition, Tom. The junior competition was taken out. The intermediate competition was taken out. So every player over 23 years of age that cannot make their county senior team have no opportunity to play county camogie.
Gone. Yeah, no second teams anymore.
That's the upshot. That's the upshot of all this, Tom. I'm sick of preaching this to deaf ears, Tom.
Okay, right.
And anybody in authority in camogie that I meet, I make my views known to.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Camogie is a great game, Tom.
Yeah.
But we have a format that's not fit for purpose. It's like making up things in the back of a cigarette box. This kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well,
this under 23, Tom, is a farce.
The counties need to start speaking up, though, Matt, for themselves, because it's no good you and I shouting about it.
They went on in and they called it development. Under 23 development. One of the days they're going to run out of rosy terms.
Right. Okay,
Tom,
Matt.
don't be annoying me anymore with camogie.
I won't. Well, look, we'll probably.
What I say to Joe and the girls, well done for their year.
Yeah.
It's not your fault that circumstances militate against you. It's not your fault. You comfortably survived in the league. You comfortably survived in the championship against the odds. Well done, Joe, his management team, and the girls.
Okay, yeah. Let's see how they go into next year. Again, all about building up that squad and getting more experience for some of the younger players who've shown through this year.
Tom, you must remember that 14 of the 24 of the 2024 squad had left the squad this year.
Yes. Okay. Matt, anything else on our agenda at this point?
No, I just want to pass a vote of sympathy to Hughie Murphy, former PRO, on the passing of his brother Tom, who died in Monaghan over the last few days. And I was sad to see today, the passing of Breed Flynn. The wife of Donny Flynn, a former Limerick hurler, won a county with UCC and won a county with Cappamore. And his wife, Breed, sadly passed on. And, of course, her son, Don, played minor and under-21 with Limerick. Won All-Irelands at minor and under-21 with Limerick.
Okay, yeah, well said, Matt. And on that somber note, folks, we'll call it a halt there. We'll be looking ahead in the coming weeks, I suppose, to club championships. But more importantly, I think at this point we'll be looking forward to the Tailteann Cup final, and we'll be discussing that more in the next couple of weeks. Matt, thanks a million. Thanks again to Josh and to Peter. And folks, we'll chat to you soon.
But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for